Are the 49ers stuck in a mistake loop? What does that mean, and how would they get out of it? And once again, taking from your article, from everyone who's watching, please make sure to go read Tom's article. He put it out yesterday on si.com. It was 4 questions for the 49ers. He's always putting out great articles, to read all of them, but a lot of what we've touched on today, aside from the breaking news that happened today that we weren't expecting, has been from this. And so within this conversation, I wanted to kind of talk about the Rams and Baltimore. We were just talking about them being smart in the draft, just a smart organization overall. But John Harbaugh and then Sean McVay both hired assistant game managers to help with decision makings for their offensive coach, offensive side of the ball during the game. Critical, if they think it's a catch on the field and someone's running down and maybe the coach didn't see and he's trying to come up with the next play call, there's a guy who's on the field. Same thing. The Lions had something similar happen where they, go for it on 4th down or don't go for it, stuff like that. Yeah. They had those 2 teams hired a guy. Specifically, his job is to help with those sorts of decision makings. We think of Kyle Shanahan and his oopsie at not knowing the overtime rules in the Super Bowl, which is just one of the most horrific things. It's crazy that's like just that happened, and now we're moving on from it. So I kind of wanted to ask you maybe what you meant within this paragraph or couple paragraphs that you talked in your article about, and then also, I guess I'll just ask you that question with that pretense of talking about the assistant head coach. And like I said, the two teams that I mentioned doing that, both have won Super Bowls. 49ers were not mentioned in that. 49ers have made it to the Super Bowl, but unfortunately not been able to make it over that hump. Is that correlated to you? Right. I would say yes.
Yes. Part of the concern with the Niners is that the only person that can tell Kyle Shanahan no in this organization is Jed York. John Lynch is the GM in name, but he reports to Kyle. Uh-huh. Kyle has final personnel control. He's the true GM of the team. And that played out in the trade for Lance.
Like his dad got fired. I mean, I'm not saying Kyle's going to get fired, but his dad, I just feel like you never want to have too much power. Like, these coaches that we're talking about who hired assistant coaches are smart guys, and they are aware enough to go, hey, actually what's best for me is to not have all the power,
Yeah, or at least to have a sounding board of somebody to say, what about this? What about that? Somebody that Kyle can run ideas off of and bounce those off of him, and someone that could be great at situational coaching. So you would have someone that would tell Kyle, throw the challenge flag in the NFC Championship against Philly. Devontae Adams trapped that ball. They're rushing up to hike it. Of course he trapped it. They know they're getting away with it. That's why they rushed up to the line. What happened? Kyle froze. He did nothing. If you had an assistant game manager, he would know. He would say, throw the challenge flag. And there's a lot of examples of that for Kyle. It's the Rams NFC Championship game in 21. Debo didn't touch the ball for the final 10 minutes in Debo's all-world year. Where is somebody telling Kyle, Debo isn't in your game plan here, what's going on? The Super Bowl against Kansas City, somebody to tell Kyle, our defense is getting gassed. We have to run the ball now. It may not be the ideal, optimal play call right now, but our defense needs it. You have to manage the game itself. And that's where you need a game manager. And Sean McVay and John Harbaugh had the humility to say, we need to do that. And Kyle says, no.
Yeah. And with Kyle, who's not only the head coach, so overseeing the whole team, but he's also the offensive coordinator. I don't even think there's any shame in being like, hey, I'm focused on what's the next play call. How did they just respond? He's looking at their defense, seeing how they're responding to what he just called and how that influences what he's going to call next. I don't think there's any shame in saying,
not at all.
I need someone to oversee these, and I think what you said, that's probably even better than how I put it, because I kind of was like, a guy to make these decisions for you. And you kind of were like, no, just a guy that you even check in on, which, I've been kind of angry, in previous, in this last season and even the season before that. How is there not someone on the team that's like, hey, Kyle, no, right here, we need to be doing this, or no, we need to be doing this. So like, I think with the lapses they've made, it is shocking to me that they haven't like put one person, like, your job is to make sure to kind of oversee things. So when I'm on the intercom, yelling with this coach and doing this, being like, there's one guy who's like, this is what I've been focusing on. This is what you should do here.
Yeah, someone that's a stopgap, or at least someone that can say, in this situation, we must do this.
Yeah.
And Kyle is so focused on looking at his call sheet and saying, what's the next play? You need somebody with eyes and a mind to apply to the game situation and say, throw the challenge flag, get Debo involved, call running plays to help your defense rest. Things that Kyle misses because he's so focused on the next play. Or someone that can tell Kyle, you can do more than just hand the ball to CMC. Absolutely true. So there's a lot of stuff that's like that.
And do you think, because we just mentioned, I will say, I think when we're, like I said, going back to the two guys that you mentioned in the article, John Harbaugh and Sean McVay, I think something that those two coaches have in common, aside from a Super Bowl, no offense, Kyle Shanahan, is humility. I think both of them have been able to stand in the media, take blame, not push it off to their quarterback. They've had big wins and big losses, both of them, and they've made corrections after their big losses, and really had teams that where they empowered the players and their assistant coaches and general managers. And although they run the team, they've been the head of the team, it doesn't feel like dictatorships when I think of those coaches. And I really, like I said, it takes me back to humility. Do you think that Jesus maybe has a point here when he says Kyle's too
there's
arrogant?
No question. Yeah. Is Kyle too arrogant? Yes. But part of this is that he's got control because Jed has given it to him. And the other point that I made in the article is that I think that the real key here, the root of every Niner trouble spot, every Niner problem, why they don't win rings, goes back to Jed won't touch the football side because Kyle is the franchise cash cow.
Yep.
And Jed values the money first. Money over football is everything.
Jed York would rather have a profitable franchise than one that is winning Super Bowls. That's why he considers what they've done, so superior to the lemonade stand that is actually the reason the 49ers have the legacy that they do and the fan base that they do.
Right. Yeah. The lemonade stand won 5 rings and made it possible for your marketing machine to get the money it now makes. None of that happens without the lemonade stand. So that's
Kevin, it was a really good show. Just rewind like the little thing at the bottom and make sure to watch it all, because we had a ton of breaking news. And then my favorite part has been going through these questions with Tom from his article. You can also just go read his article, but right now is our time. I think Rob Stats Guerrero always says that. Like if he is promoting something, he'll be like, not now. Now is our time. So I'm stealing from Rob and saying, don't go do that now. Rewatch our show, but then go read Tom's article and put them both together. So, yeah. But thank you so much for joining us, Tom. Sorry about that. I think that was actually my bad because I had the time wrong.
Oh, no worries at all. Great time.
And then,
always.
And then Mr. Corey, just going back really quick, because I just saw Kevin's comment, so I skipped Corey's. But Corey said people thought Anthony Lynn was going to be that guy, and I wanted to agree with Corey. I also did assume that when he was first brought in, he was kind of sold as if he was going to be that, or actually he was first brought in as the running back guy. And then that didn't work out. They brought back Bobby Turner from surgery. They were like, we don't care if you're healing, you need to come. And then it seemed like people were like, well, what's Anthony Lynn doing? And they kind of
so what's Anthony Lynn?
It didn't seem to be that at all.
No. I think they need to have somebody in that specific role, and that person has to be answerable to Jed, so that Kyle doesn't just ignore the guy and say that I'm not going to give you the time of day. No, you need to have someone that's an assistant game manager that will tell Kyle, look, dude, no. And somebody has to tell him no. Somebody has to course correct for him and get him back on the rails when he's too focused on the next play.
Yeah. So whether or not Anthony Lynn was supposed to be that, he definitely wasn't.
He wasn't. Yeah, that's the bottom line on it, unfortunately.
And I think when we go back to Jesus, saying, Kyle has his nose up in the air. Is he too arrogant? Those questions, whoever this guy is, has to be a guy that Kyle Shanahan respects, because maybe you can give that guy, if Anthony Lynn was that in title, he surely wasn't that in practice. So it's kind of this catch-22, which I like that you're bringing it back to, hey, let's not only judge Kyle Shanahan for this, but let's judge Jed York, because he's someone who can actually be saying, hey, Kyle, these are things that we want you to implement. This isn't something, I don't want you to give a guy a title. I want there to be a guy on the team, and I want you to take him seriously. And, as the overseer of this organization, that is a position that I am hiring, that I'm going to be paying, and I want him to be a part of this team. But Jed York does not have the, for lack of a better word, like cojones to say that to Kyle Shanahan.
Right, because he's so focused on what Kyle can do for the team financially that Kyle optimizes the Niners financially. He fills the stadium, and he gives them 1 or 2 home playoff games a year, which are pure profit. So when the team is an annual contender, fills out the stadium, and has home playoff games, he's the golden goose. And Jed decides that I'm not going to touch the golden goose. I want him to keep laying these home playoff game eggs. I want him to continue to deliver the money. And so nothing ever changes. He doesn't touch Kyle. And as a result, Kyle can only change if he decides that's necessary. And Kyle's arrogance and narcissism are such that he won't do that on the areas where he does need to change. On his philosophy on the offensive line, on using the offensive line as a salary cap savings center, as
which is crazy.
A number of
just
why? Yeah, in this era of the NFL, why are you not investing in your offensive line? It doesn't make sense. So
especially with Jed York coming out and being like, I can't wait to pay Brock. It's like, hey, don't you want to protect that? Because we've seen as 49er fans, we've seen you make a quarterback the highest paid player, and then him get injured immediately. So maybe you could not do that again. Take this opportunity to change. But you're right. Right now, they're having success with it. The 49ers are making money. And
as Jesus says, the Lions drafted their OL. Yeah, well, Brad Holmes, one of the best GMs in the league, great drafter, knows what he's doing. Took a risk on Panay Sewell, and it really paid off for them. So it comes down again
that was
to
like a contentious thing too, right?
Because they had the choice of Jamar Chase or Panay Sewell, and they chose to take Sewell, and it worked out for him. And that's a GM that knows who he's targeting and why. He has a philosophy. He knows what he wants for his team, and he got it done. And now they
look
are.
At what they've done with the Lions. They've turned that organization around.
Right. And Holmes is
49ers almost
most important
them.
Reason why. Yeah. And so imagine if the Niners had Holmes and Detroit had Shanahan, where would the Niners be? Where would Detroit be?
Yeah, that's scary.
Oh well. But the larger point is that Jed won't touch Kyle because of the financial success, and therefore Kyle won't change the areas that have to be changed for the team to win a ring. So they're stuck in a loop.
I definitely hope that the 49ers go O-line on this defense. Jesus says O-line is key against defenses, against rugged defenses. I agree. And with the 49ers and the goals that they have, it's important that they start investing in that offensive line. Tom, I had such a great stream with you today. I don't want to say his name because it feels funny to say, but we got a lot of people in the chat saying good show. I enjoyed everyone kind of commenting on, like I said, a lot of this came from Tom's article, so please make sure to go follow him. I gotta hide this for his name to come up, but Tom Jensen or 49ers Cast on Twitter. Make sure to follow him. si.com is where his articles are posted, and make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think I'm going to be doing a call-in show tomorrow, and then I am streaming with Marco on Friday. And apparently Marco predicted the Stephon Diggs trade. Talked about it a couple days ago.
Marco has sources. He's real.
He's plugged in. That's crazy. I'm excited to ask him about that. Mr. Corey says Shake Brendo's salary basically became guaranteed. Did something just happen?
It's the start of the new league year, and so as the calendar year turns over, Brendel's deal becomes guaranteed. It's not like they were going to do anything at center anyway.
Unless, what about Graham?
Graham Barton is now looked at as the top center. He's taken over from Jackson Powers Johnson. And Barton had a pro day where he did really well, ran under 5 in the 40 and did all the drills well. So Barton is now projected to go to Miami at 21 or 22. I forget what they picked. So if that's the case, then Barton's out. There's a lot of talk that Jackson Powers Johnson won't get taken in the first. So there won't be a center that the Niners take at 31 unless they trade down.
Okay. Well, interesting. I'm still hoping, crossing my fingers for Avarius Mims. Is that how I say his first name? I literally don't even try to say his first name. Whenever I can't pronounce something, I just pretend that it isn't there. Sometimes there's like commentators and I'm like, this guy, because I feel bad. I'm like, well, I don't want to like butcher it. I've never been someone who cares about like pronunciation of my last name, maybe just because I don't have that difficult of a last name. I get people that spell it wrong a lot, and I've never cared, but I know some people do. Like I had a coworker who was like really frustrated when people would say his name wrong. So I'm like, I would rather just try to not, unless obviously I'm close with you, then I'm going to like ask you and make sure that I get it right.
Sure.